Welcome to the CareerMetis Podcast. I am your host, Nisar Ahmed. I'm the founder and editor of the blog CareerMetis.com, and this is episode 6 of the podcast. And today's episode is part of the Day in the Life of series. In each of the Day in the Life of episodes, I will conduct interviews with individuals from a particular career. And I'm doing this, as I mentioned before, for anyone looking to get into a particular field or industry. There are always unanswered questions about what it is required to get into the industry, what a typical day looks like, what an ideal career looks like, what are some of the red flags or things to watch out for. And after listening to these episodes, you, the listener, will get a chance or a clearer idea on a particular job or career. And for today's episode, I'm speaking with a real estate professional, also called as a realtor. And our guest's name is Jack Singh. And his company is called MySoulJack.com. Jack will be sharing his experience, how he got started in the real estate business, where he stands today, some of the advantages or benefits, and of course, some of the challenges of the job or career itself. So we'll now listen to the interview that I conducted between Jack Singh, a realtor, and myself. Hey, Jack. Welcome to the CareerMetis Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great as well. Thank you. And today, Jack, you will be helping us out by talking about the life of a realtor or a real estate professional. So I think it'll be better if you give an introduction about who you are and what you do in your own words. So, Jack, to start us off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Please introduce yourself.
Sure. I mean, that's a great way to start off. Well, my name is Jack Singh, as Nisar already mentioned. So, basically, I just got into the real estate world in the last 6 months. Prior to that, I've been with several organizations, but predominantly in the document solution industry. So pretty much I've been there for the last 12 years, and I've been working in sales, moved myself up from a commercial sales up to corporate level. So pretty much I've done, all the ropes and in terms of sales position. So right now I decided that, real estate is going to be my career, and I decided to, take up the course and got my license.
Hey, Jack, thanks for the introduction, and also congratulations on getting your license. I think
you.
It's what I've heard. I think every city, every province, every country, it is different, but it is not easy. It's a long, strenuous process. Is that correct in terms of getting a license?
Well, I would want to agree with you absolutely. Yes, every province has their own, educational system. So here in Ontario, there's 6 courses that you have to take. And right now, recently, just in the last few months, they've actually changed the educational structure, which before, when I did my courses, was like you have to do 3 courses prior getting your license. And then after getting your license, which you have up to 18 months to complete 3 additional courses. That is to complete your entire, real estate license. But right now, if someone wants to get into, have decided that, hey, guess what? I want to be a realtor. Think about this. You have to sit for 5 courses prior getting a license. So that's a cost that, most, millennials have to, put into consideration.
Yeah, thanks for answering that, because one of the reasons I wanted to invite you to the podcast is Of course, real estate is a very mature profession, right? If you look at an average real estate, they've been in the business for many years, and this is geared towards somebody who wants to get in. And since you recently got the license, I thought your experience would be useful for someone else getting into it. So, just wanted to go back to the process itself, right? How does somebody get started as a real estate agent? Um, can you? So you said that is 18 months, 5 courses, and tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, were you doing this? Were you studying this part time, or like how was the education process like?
Sure. I mean, yes, to answer your last questions, yes, I did it part-time as I was working full-time last year. So, and what it takes to get on board is basically that if you're Canadian or been here long enough and you've studied, have completed the high school educational, what do you call, standards over here, then you can automatically enroll yourself in the first course. But for someone who's coming as a new immigrant or moving to Canada, you would need to at least bring your, whatever highest education that you have with you. Like, for example, if you have a degree. But then again, if the degree is not from North America, you got to get that at least translated or assessed by a university here in Toronto. So that's a long process, but that's an easier way to do that. All you have to do is sit for a pre-registration course. I think it was just $50. And it's simple English, simple math. You don't really need to prep yourself too much on that. And once you pass that, you can get on board to your course number 1. And then after that, you got to take course number 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. I know it's kept going on, but once you finish 5 courses, then you are officially registered now as a licensed realtor. Now, what happens is that in order for you to get your license or to activate your license, you need to find a brokerage. You need to work for a brokerage. You can't have the license without joining a brokerage. So that's another process altogether that once you have found the right brokerage that you're comfortable to work with, and now you have to register with that brokerage, and that brokerage will actually take your license and register with RECO, which is Real Estate Council of Ontario, and then you're officially now a full-fledged realtor. That's basically, in a nutshell, what it takes to, get on board.
So when you say brokerages, I'm assuming they're the big names like the Remaxes, the Century 21s, and Sutton. Those type of you're referring to them as brokerages, right?
Yes, but not necessarily the big guys. I mean, these days, you and me, we can get a brokerage, but all it takes that you have to be at least 2 years minimum licensed, and then you have to complete a broker course, and then you can just, start off your own brokerage. So you don't necessarily need to be with all the big guys. And hey, guess what? I'm also with a brokerage which just started in the last 6 years, which is called the Redfin. So, you don't really need to be with a big, brand name.
Interesting. That's good to know, right? Because I think these big companies do a lot of branding that you just assume are automatically that you have to be. I'm not saying the Remax, Century 21, Sutton are the only one. There are tons of them, but there's the assumption that you have to go with them. So that's good to know. So Jack, I do want to come back to the brokerage part because it ties into one of my questions which I'll ask. But I wanted to spend as much time talking to you, learning about you, and I'm sure the listeners as well. So you mentioned in your introduction that you were in a sales career, then you pivoted to a real estate professional. So about everybody has, I'm assuming, has different motivations to get into real estate. What is your real estate career motivation? What made you get into real estate?
Oh wow, that's an excellent question, Nisar. You know what? From sales to real estate, I would say the transition is not a big one. Well, the fundamentals are still the same. You know, you're still using the sales approach. You have to approach your clients. You have to follow up with them. So basically, as I said, the elements of, getting to the front door of a client is the same in a sales career. But what made me actually got myself into, changing my entire career into real estate is that when I bought my first house in 2013, that's where I decided that, I want to have my house pay for itself. So basically what that means is that I wanted to have an income property while living in the house. So when I came first to Canada, I used to rent a room and, for over a year. And then I told myself that I'm not going to pay rent or keep paying rent. I should be, getting into ownership. So that's where I decided that I'm going to buy a house, but what I'm going to do is I want to convert that house into an income property. So ever since when I started doing that, when I, renovated my house, I got tenants that, I dealt with. And, from there on, actually, it started to entice me or intrigue me, I would say, to actually, get more in depth in the real estate market. So that's how I basically started, learning a little bit more every day that, what it takes to become a realtor, what are the consequences that is going to be, faced for the next, couple of months before you get your license. And, what are the considerations that I have to take into. So this is basically, how it started. I would always want to use the story of, my house is the decider that today I'm a realtor.
Wow, that's actually, it's what happened is, what I'm hearing is you got excited about something, you became passionate, then you decided, you know what, if I can do it, I can help other people or teach other people to do it as well. It reminds me of there is a sales coach, Jeffrey Gitomer. I'm a sales guru. He writes a lot of books, coaches, seminars, and he says the best salespeople are users of the product, right? So if you work in sales and if you don't use the product yourself, you should not be selling it. All right. So let's say you work at a Ford dealership and you drive you take the Transit, or you take or you drive a Chevy. You won't come across as someone who's that credible. So in your case, that analogy, I know it's a very weak analogy, but I was trying to make a point here. In your case, you went from renting to buying a house and living in a house and renovating. You loved it so much. You said, you know what, I know more about this. I can teach other people, or I can help other people. So that's a great way to turn something you enjoy into a career.
You got it, Nisa. So basically you got on the stress on the right point. Is that, is the house that, that I got into. If you are a realtor, you need to own a property. All right. So basically, you are absolutely right. So let's take your example, for instance, that if you are working for a Ford dealership, you got to drive a Ford car or a Ford truck. You can't seem to, drive a Honda. So same goes here. I mean, if I'm a realtor, if I'm a realtor and someone asks me, hey, Jack, it's great that you have advised us to get into a detached home or a semi-detached. But I just want to ask you, how did you feel when you got your first detached home? Oh, sorry, guys. Actually, I'm still renting. How would the client feel right now when you say that to them? So, this is basically, you're absolutely right. You got to own a property. You got to own that product. You got to use it. You got to understand the product. And then now you can be a guru and explaining that same product to your next client, So it makes life
Absolutely.
easier when you are involved. So that's why I took my house as an example, or I would take my house as a study ground. So that's where I will learn a lot from my own house. And that's how I channel myself into my realtor's life.
No, that's great. That's awesome. Because as you said, right, if a customer speaks to you or a potential customer, you get instant credibility saying, hey, you know what? Uh, I own my own house. I actually own one or two houses, and I believe in this, and that's the reason you should get it. So the customers can sense that, right? That people are smart. They can really sense when somebody's being sincere or insincere. So that's a great point. Um, no, so actually, this would be a good segue, Jack, to our next question because you told us why you got into real estate. Of course, now when you got into the real estate, um, of course, your role might have changed, right? It's not only about you loving real estate, but also what is involved. Like, for example, what does the day-to-day look like now that you are a real estate professional? So if someone listening to this, this Jack guy sounds very legit. I want to be a real estate agent, but I don't know what happens every day. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. It's the same, philosophy. You got to be proactive. You got to wake up. I know in real estate, for most people think, hey, guess what? From 9 to 5, I'm doing nothing. But from 5 to 8, I'm doing everything. Not necessarily true. Yeah, in a fraction, yes. Why? Because you only can make phone calls and follow up with your clients or your potential clients, after working hours, which is after 4, after 5 p.m. during the weekday. So yes, you become more busier after 5, but that doesn't stop you from, preparing yourself ahead of time. Like, for example, I like to wake up and start my day at 9 a.m., regardless if I have to meet a client or if I have the appointment set up. No, I'm still going to wake up 9 a.m. in the morning. What I'm going to do is open my computer and check for what are the latest properties, what are the new projects, what are the new areas. So I like to study. I want to know. So when, for example, a client asks me, hey, Jack, what would you think about, Mississauga Southwest corner? Oh, sure. You know what? These are the schools in the area. These are the ranking. And these are the hospitals, and these are the potential new projects that is going to, be developed. So I want to be as knowledgeable as I can. So in order for me to do that, I want to make full use of my time in the morning. So my regular day-to-day is basically, waking up, checking on properties, doing search, getting in front of my client. The best way to get in touch with your client is when you have something new to tell them. In order for you to get that one thing new is for you to go out there and search something new. So what I do is I take the extra mile. I take the extra step just to, get my clients the information that they need, regardless whether they want it right now or they don't need it at all. But for me, as a realtor, as a professional, I want to make sure that they acknowledge that I'm putting enough effort in terms of getting the business. So basically, you got to be proactive. You got to be out there. You got to make sure that you're making enough calls, going out, meeting your clients, making them feel comfortable. Don't put too much pressure on them because buying a house is the biggest decision in everybody's lives. It's not something like you're going to the mall to buy a fan. No. So, it's a different ball game. So your approach has to be right. You have to use subtle approach, but at the same time, don't lose the fundamentals of, getting to the point of them signing the dotted line. So basically, that's what it is.
So what I'm hearing is, I think it's common knowledge, right? I think anybody who's dealt with a realtor, they know that the realtors work on the weekends and evenings. So what I'm hearing is, realtors not only work only during this time, evenings and weekends, but they should be, or they ideally are working during the day as well, where they're learning, they're educating themselves, et cetera, right? So is that how you would summarize? Like your day is always full, regardless whether you're meeting the client or not.
You got it. You got to keep yourself busy every single minute.
That makes sense. So once you got started in real estate, Jack, what are the top maybe two or three things that you enjoy? You told us why you got into it, your passion for properties and houses, but the role itself as a real estate agent, uh, what are two or three things you enjoy?
You know what? The very top uh, thing that I enjoy the most is when I take my clients on a tour to show properties. When I go on a showing and when I explain to them about, what are the benefits of this entire property, regardless if I've seen the property prior to the showing, or if I've did some research. But what the point here is that I like to be involved. Like, I forget myself. I just go into this mesmerized zone where I'm just on top of a floating, memory foam that I'm just telling them everything as if I'm living in the house. And what excites me the most is to see the excitement on the faces of all my clients. It's like, wow, this guy is really in there. He's really explaining to me. And end of the day, I like to hear feedbacks from them, and that really makes me feel good. Because why? It makes me feel that I really did a good job. My client is happy, and I'm happy. So basically, that was just one thing that really makes me happy to see, the excitement on my client's face.
That's good. So you're connecting with someone making an important decision. That'll be one thing that you really enjoy. Are there other things you enjoy, Jack, about the role or what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that these days, I mean, I'm sure you probably already heard that there's so many multiple offers taking place, and there's offer presentations these days. What that means is that when you bring a client to show a property, and let's say, for example, a client that likes that property, and they say, "Hey, Jack, I want to put an offer." And then when you do your research and you do your due diligence and realize that, hey, you know what? We're going to have a multiple offers on the same properties. So what I like to do is, what the second fun part is, that when I prep myself and prep my client at the same time, how are we going to combat this situation? I will prepare like strategies. I will prepare like different price ranges. I will prepare several same, documents, just in case that we are in a price war. Now we don't have to go back and forth to print documents. So I get myself all ready prior to the offer hearing. So that really, makes me feel good, because I'm doing something more than, most realtors do. Just to give you an example, if it's a multiple offer, all they're going to say, hey, you either put, top dollar or don't put it at all. Yeah, that makes sense in a way, but more rational sense, I would say, it's like sitting down and doing your homework in terms of, seeing the number of realtors competing in the same property, check and see what are the comps in the area, how much was the last property on the street was sold for, stuff like that. That really, makes me feel that I'm putting my time into it. So that's my second most, enjoyable part of being a realtor.
No, that sounds great. So now you're talking about the intricate step-by-step, negotiation, doing your research, walking them through the process. So initially you showed them the project, or the property, they fell in love with it. Now, how do you make sure that they win that, and make that their dream house? So, yeah, that is exciting. I can sense the excitement in the process, right? The chase. Anybody who's been in sales, any type of sales, this part, everybody enjoys it. Um, so Jack, I don't mean to. I mean, now I had to play devil's advocate here, right? Because every job, every career, there are ups and downs. There are good things and bad things. I'm just making an assumption here. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, what are some of the challenges, or if there are, what are some of the challenges that someone has to think about or look forward to when they become a realtor? Can you talk us? Maybe there isn't, but maybe there is. Maybe you can talk about it.
You are being a very good devil's advocate. I will give it to you for sure. The first very most first thing I would say, all right, put it this way, is that the challenges is that being a realtor, you got to take into consideration that you are only going to be paid when you sell. So meaning to say is that you don't have a base salary that to keep you going. You don't have an income that is to pay your bills. So you have to make sure that you have sufficient savings to take you for the next 6 months after getting your license. Because why? It takes time before you actually can make your first sale. All right. So that's the very most important thing, the dollar value. And the second thing is that it can be really strenuous because why? The stress level is going to be as high as Mount Everest right now because you are assuming that I'm a realtor. I'm just going to knock on doors and somebody's going to, use my services. No, it doesn't work that way. You can go to like 1,000 houses and knock on their doors. I can bet you none of them are going to reply. And even though if you can continuously, send postcards, flyers to, a neighborhood, I can bet you, again, that's not going to work right away. It may work, but not right away. So I'm trying to say is that you got to make sure that you prepare yourself for at least 6 months ahead of time, in terms of money, in terms of, physical stress. If you're married, your wife is just going to nag on you and say, hey, guess what? You're working until night. Why? Because that's how a realtor's life is. The time starts after 5. So this is some things that, you have to take in consideration. Oh, before I forget, don't even bother. Your weekends are gone. You can't sit down and have good, nice barbecue over beers in your backyard anymore over Saturdays because that's your busiest day. You are out there showing properties. So this is basically some things that you have to sacrifice in order for you to become a successful realtor. So I would say it's a happy challenge, but it's how you perceive it. Like for me, I take it as it comes. Why? Is because I've already planned myself ahead of time that, I'm going to foresee all these things. I should be mentally and physically ready to take these challenges.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I should change this episode instead of the day in the life of a realtor, keeping it real by Jack Singh here, because that is the truth, right? I mean, it's good to know what some of the challenges are, and it's better somebody finds out, and it's setting the right expectations. So so you're talking about making sacrifices, of course, being financially responsible. Most people, no matter what their career is, they're always thinking about or stressed out about money and planning it forward. So that makes total sense. And also, of course, your work-life balance, right? So that also makes sense. So, I mean, those are something people have to look into. But one thing I really liked about what you mentioned right now, Jack, is it's a happy challenge. It's the way you perceive the challenge, right?
Right.
Okay. So finally, I think we have talked about the day-to-day. Now I want to switch gears, going back to something I promised I'll ask you again. You mentioned the word brokerage right at the beginning. So right now you're a realtor. What is it? Is there a career path in the real estate world? And if there is, what does an ideal career path look like?
Well, there is a career path in a realtor. So, I mean, the first step is obviously we have already talked about it, to get your license. And once you get your license, you join a brokerage. And I think we touched on that as well. A brokerage is where you park your license and that's where you work, because you as a realtor, you cannot represent yourself to a client. So you have to be associated with a brokerage, because the brokerage is the one that is going to be representing the client. So that's basically what it is. Now, the career path it does not stop right there. It moves on. So as you go, you finish and you complete your articling courses. So as I just mentioned, there are 6 courses that you have to take 3 before getting your license, 3 after getting your license. That was before my time when I sat for my courses. But right now it's like 5 courses before getting your license and 1 after. So these are mandatory courses, but it doesn't stop right there. You have more options. So what happens is you have 6 mandatory courses to do, and there's several other courses that you can take to nurture yourself. For example, the one that is very good, that is going to give you a step up from being a realtor, is that to take your broker course. So once you complete your broker course, then you are now officially a broker, not only a realtor, but you are a realtor broker. But don't get confused with a broker and a brokerage. So as a broker, you are still pretty much still working for a brokerage. You don't own a brokerage, but now you are known as a broker instead of just a realtor. So for some clients, they like to see that. They feel like, oh, this guy has, experience. He has, several years of experience. That's why he's a broker right now. Which it makes sense. It gives the comfort zone, and the comfort level increases from there on for most clients. When you talk to them and you say that, hey, guess what? I'm not just a realtor, but I'm a broker. So now your career path have gone up. So the next step from there on is that if you have established yourself so well in the industry, and if you have a huge, or I would say a relatively significant size of clientele, then you can decide to actually start your own firm, which is a brokerage. So you can register yourself now as a brokerage. So you can have, let's say, for example, if I want to have my own brokerage, I can name it maybe Jack Realty Inc. or Jack Realty Services Inc. So now I don't have to join, the names that you just mentioned, like Remax, the Red Pen. So I can have my own brokerage, and now I can start selling my own and making the full commissions for myself. I don't have to, share my commissions with the brokerage. So pretty much that's how, the career path goes on. And once you have your own brokerage, the possibilities are endless, and, you can keep going from there on.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Thanks for, clarifying the career path. In terms of one thing I wanted to ask you, and this is any career out there, right? And of course, if you've heard of, for example, Uber, how Uber has disrupted the taxi industry, Amazon has disrupted the retail industry, and so on. I can give you Netflix has disrupted the blockbuster video rental industry. So any job people have on the back of the mind, they should, with the changes in technology. How about the real estate industry, Jack? Technology, more and more people are online, more apps are coming out. Do you think technology is changing or disrupting the industry? Would there be any changes coming in the future?
My short answer will be yes. And reason to justify the yes is you're absolutely right with all the examples that you just given. The real estate industry is also coming to a peak point where it's going to change. And in fact, it's already changing. So those traditional brokerages, as I mentioned, brokerage, they are still using the same old method like 20, 30 years ago. Right now, you can't really do that. Let me give you a better example. You use Uber as an example. I will take that. All right. So, for example, a taxi is still traditional. But when today you say, hey, you know what? Let's take an Uber. That's new. That's how people want to perceive. Why? Because that's changed. People want changes in the industry. Technology, as you mentioned, is taking over. And I strongly believe that one day technology is going to replace humans. Unfortunately, that's what's going to be. But let's not get there because we still want our jobs. So what I'm trying to say is that in the real estate industry, it's also changing. Now, just to give you another example, why I decided to actually switch brokerages. Maybe I did not mention that. When I got my license, the first brokerage that I worked for was Remax, the big name that you mentioned. I was there for at least 2.5 months. And then I realized I was just paying too much of fees. So what I mean to say is that there is a cost that you have to factor in order for you to survive or to keep your license going in that brokerage. So I was paying somewhat around $600 a month. Now, in that $600 a month, I don't get anything. What I'm trying to say is that all I get is, okay, come for mandatory sales meetings, and this is our brokerage, and this is you, and this is no space for you to sit, and this is no business cards for you. This is no, so many no's that you can imagine. So pretty much what it is that you are a lone wolf lost in a forest. So you basically have to be your own survivor. You have to print your own business cards. You have to print your own flyers. You have to, build your own website, and the list goes on. But that is a traditional brokerage. Today, what is changing in the market is that why do you need to pay a fee? Just like the taxi industry, why do you need to pay licensing fees? Why do you need to pay permit fees? Why did you need to pay, whatever city, imposed fees that you have to pay? And with Uber, all you have to do is own your car, get registered, and get going. As simple as that. So coming back to the real estate right now with the red pin, which I've actually moved to, it's pretty much is using the same method. They're a technology-based company. They're not really a traditional real estate company. They started off, as 4 founders. What they did is that basically they just wanted to actually, how it started? Let me just share with you. It's basically when they 6 years ago, when they decided that they want to, find a property, and they realized that not all information was available online. So they had to work with a realtor to get the information they need. Now, back in the day, unfortunately, realtors are not that savvy. They know, for the example, that if you need information, you got to come to me. I'm the guy. So, the ego and it just goes up from there. So what these guys did, the founders, they decided that they're going to create a website or a site where they can give all the information and make sure that all the information about a property is available to the public. So that's how they started their business. And today they are very successful, and they have pretty much everything online. So for example, if you want to, look for a property, you don't have to go all over the place. All you have to do is go on the redpin.com, and you'll find the property that you need. As simple as that. You will find the taxes, you'll find the maintenance fees, you'll find the square footage, you'll find every information, full details in that website. So, and plus, I don't pay fees. I don't pay a desk fees. I don't pay the $600 that I used to pay. I don't pay any fees right now. But in terms of the environment that I'm enjoying right now is that they're more IT, more technology-based company, which they are more like, I would say, a team-oriented. So we work as a team. So this is basically, I'm just trying to share with you. I know it's a large topic altogether. It's still in the transition. It's not changed completely, just like how Uber and Airbnb have actually taken over. Real estate it's coming. It's there. It's a little bit more complicated because there's a lot of regulatory boards that has to decide on things. So it will take time, but eventually it's going to be the same. It's going to be a point where everything is available online, and you don't really need to work so in depth with a realtor. I know I'm saying this as a realtor. I should not say this, but truth to be told, eventually that day will come.
Well, when I'm listening to this, I'm listening to two things, right? So the customers are being empowered with technology, right? Because they get access to information. And at the same time, the realtors, such as yourself, are also being empowered by technology. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just makes it, you're becoming more tech-centric or technology-friendly realtor because of a company like Redpin then, right? So technology in this case is actually helping. Okay. Fair enough. So, Jack, final question. We are coming towards the end here. Actually, the last question is if someone wanted to reach out to you after listening to this for advice or, hey, listen, maybe they needed to buy a house, how can they reach you? What is the best way to reach you?
Oh, that's many ways to reach out to me. So the first very most important number that you all guys have to actually take note is my cell phone number, which is 647-261-1413. And my email is Jack, which is JACK, at theredpin.com. Or you can go to my Facebook website, which is www.facebook.com/mysouljack. Let me spell that for you. It's MYSOLJAC. That's my Facebook page. You can like it, and you will get all the updates. I regularly post, new updates on my Facebook page. So if you do like it, you will get notifications, and you will see all the latest trend in the real estate market. And if you still feel that you want to see me in person, coffee is always on me, and call me anytime, and we will have a good chat.
Yeah, Jack, thanks for that. And I will add the links and the email at the end of in the summary section of this podcast. So, Jack, thank you very much. I learned a lot. I'm sure the people listening to this have learned a lot as well. We learned what a real estate career looks like, what the day-to-day looks like, what are the challenges. So, on behalf of all the listeners, myself, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us, Jack.
I'm glad I could help, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have an excellent day.
You too. Bye now.
Thanks, folks, for listening to this episode of A Day in the Life of a Realtor. I have written a summary of things that Jack has mentioned as part of a blog post on my website. If you liked what you heard, feel free to subscribe to the CareerMetis Podcast on iTunes. And as always, for more content, ideas, tips, resources, go to CareerMetis.com. If you enjoyed the episode and also learned something new, feel free to post a comment. And if you really loved it, definitely go ahead and share the episode on your social media feeds. Until next time, this is Nisar Ahmed, your host of the CareerMetis Podcast. Thank you.